Okay, good morning, everybody. This is the Development Control Committee of Herts County Council for the 21st of January 2021. Before we start, I've got quite a long list of announcements to make, just to make sure that everybody is absolutely clear about the process that we're following, given the fact that this is being done online. First of all, members of the public may attend this meeting in an electronic capacity, and there is a link on the council's website for them to do so. But only agreed public speakers and petitioners have been permitted to enter via Teams. Members of the meeting are asked to keep their microphones switched off until called to speak, and to switch their microphones off once they have finished speaking. So treat it like a red light in the council chamber. Cameras may be left on throughout the meeting if members wish, but cameras should be switched on if and when speaking at the meeting. If you wish to speak, use the raise hand function. Don't use the chat function. That will be used exclusively for voting, please. And no members of the public, only the committee members can use the chat function for any purpose. I will ask members to vote for, against or abstain for each item in the chat function, but I will also go around each member in turn and ask them to state their decision so that the members of the public watching can see the individual councillor's position. Officers, petitioners and speakers who are in the conference will keep their microphones and cameras switched off until they are called to speak. Once petitioners and speakers have finished speaking, I'll take a short break of a few minutes to allow the speakers to leave the Teams meeting and watch through the public meeting, which is on the County Council website /watch meetings. Any disruption to the meeting will result in ejection and permanent exclusion. If we have any connection failures, the Democratic Services Officer clerking the meeting will advise me whether or not the meeting is quorate. If the meeting is quorate, it will continue. If there is no quorum, then I will specify the time for which the meeting will be adjourned, and the expectation will be that that will be no longer than is necessary for the connection to be re-established. And I will advise you accordingly. If you're absent, if any individual member is absent for a significant period due to a technical fault, then I will take advice as to whether or not that person shall be eligible to vote on that particular application being discussed. I don't expect the meeting to last two hours, but if it does, then we will take a break after a couple of hours of a few minutes. Finally, if a member wishes their particular view on the item of business to be recorded in the minutes, please say so at the time, and you're reminded to declare any interest that you might have at the start of the meeting. So we have one substitute. Jeff Jones, thank you, is substituting for David Andrews. So I'll go through and in alphabetical order, and I'll ask members just to introduce themselves to the members of the public who may be watching. So I'll start with David Barnard.
Hello, I'm David Barnard. I'm the County Councillor for Hitchin Rural and a member of this committee, of course. Thank you.
Stephen Bolton.
Hello, I'm Stephen Bolton, a member of Council for Hatfield Rural.
Thank you. Steve Drury. Do we have Steve Drury? Apparently not. Okay, we'll move on then to Dreda Gordon.
Dreda Gordon, member for London Coney.
Thank you, Dreda. John Hale.
John Hale, member for Coney Heath and Marshalswick.
Thank you. Jeff Jones.
Yeah, good morning, Jeff Jones, member for Buntingford and a substitute member of this committee, and I'm substituting today for David Andrews.
Thank you. Michael Muir.
Member for Baldock and a little bit of Letchworth, and I'm a permanent member of the committee and vice chair of the committee.
Thank you. Seamus Quilty.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm Seamus Quilty. I'm the county councillor representing Bushy South Division.
Thank you. Andrew Williams.
Good morning, Andrew Williams. I'm County Councillor representing Hemel Hempstead East.
Thank you. And I'm Ian Ray. I'm the chairman of the committee and I represent Berkhamsted on the County Council. Okay, we have no apologies. Can we confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 24th of November 2020 as a correct record?
Agreed.
Okay. I see no objections, so I will take that as an approval. We have, and those minutes will be signed at the next opportunity when I'm in the hall. Okay, we have no public petitions. We have no notification of any other business. We have no motions. So I'll propose to go directly into the item 1, which is the only planning application for this committee, and it's an application for the variation of condition 1, which is the completion of development of the planning permission 3/019319 to extend the permitted completion date from the 30th of June 2021 to the 30th of October 2024 at Thorley Hall Farm, Thorley Wash, Bishop Stortford. The presenting officer is Sharon Threlfall, and I'll ask Sharon now to present the case. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you, Councillor Ray. Good morning, committee. My name is Sharon Threlfall and I'm a Principal Planning Officer at Hertfordshire County Council. As Councillor Ray has mentioned, this application is to consider the variation of condition 1, which is the timeline for permitted completion date at Thorley Wash. The current permitted completion date is 30th of June 2021 and the application seeks to extend that to the 30th of October 2024, so a period of just over 3 years. As you'll see on paragraph 2.4, the report does recommend that the application is authorised for approval, and there are a list of conditions. Just to draw your attention to the fact that the only condition that's sought to change is condition 1, but one of the challenges of working at home and on a very small computer in switching over the conditions, I do also need to amend condition 7, the landscaping condition, which includes the fencing, including fencing. The draft conditions at the rear of your report, at the end of your report, have a date of March 2022 in the condition, which is carried over from the previous permission. That will actually need to be amended to 2025 to carry through with the extended completion date if planning permission is granted. So that will also need to be amended just to tie in with ensure the dates are all consistent. And just also, I know that members have been circulated a copy of the presentation from the applicant. There is a typo. I picked up a typo in that last night. It has been circulated to all members, and paragraph 6 refers to condition 15, which is HGVs to turn left out of the site. The application does not seek to change that in any way. The only change is to condition 1. So that was just an unfortunate typo. And I'm sure that the applicant, Ms. McDonald, is on the call and she will be presenting later, and I'm sure she can confirm that. So I'll take you through the description of the site and the development, the consultation responses and the key issues. So if you just bear with me while I call up my presentation for you. There can be a little bit of a delay on this. Oops, just got to move. So, Councillor Ray, could you just confirm for me? Can you just see the Thorley Hall Wash, the white screen?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Okay, I will move through these presentations, but it does have a slight habit of move through the slides. It does have a slight delay when you move through them. And at the moment, there we go. So you should now have an aerial view of Thorley and the area to the south of Bishop Stortford. Is that showing up for you?
It is now, yes.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, I'll just get a pointer. Okay, and you should now also have a red dot on the screen.
Yes, we do.
Lovely, thank you. So the site Thorley Hall Farm is located to the south of the town of Bishop Stortford. It is in an area of greenbelt, so the actual site shows up quite well on this aerial view. The area of development is here. The access point is from St James's Way, and there's a roundabout and then an access road of about 400 metres. The land to the south continues in arable farmland, consistent with this greenbelt location. The area to the north, this area is now currently under development. So this Thorley Street area, planning permission, since the original grant of the planning permission for the construction of the reservoir, planning permission has been granted for new residential properties and a new secondary school, and that's currently under construction. There is a bridle way, there is a public right of way that runs parallel to the site, and part of the original planning permission sought to divert that bridle way. At the moment, that still has not been able to be put in place, and there are safety measures to protect the public who are using those rights of way. The reason that hasn't happened is that it's a separate process to move a right of way, separate to the planning process, and there was an objection to the original application to reroute that right of way, and there have been delays due to the pandemic. And so that application has now been withdrawn and a new application has been drafted and will be re-advertised. So that process is still continuing to deliver the rerouting of the bridleway as required by the original planning permission. If councillors look to paragraph 3.6, you'll see the details of the planning history of the site. Planning permission for this, for the creation of the reservoir by which the gravel was to be extracted was granted in 2014. There's been various other applications. We've had treatment application to allow the treatment because it was found that the quality of the gravel, sand and gravel coming out of the ground was very high quality, and so permission was granted to allow processing to take place on that site, with the processing plant sat down within the reservoir as it's being created. There is processing only on Saturday mornings. And so that's a brief planning history of the site. So the current application that we're looking at is to extend the time for completion from 2021 to 2024. It's estimated as of October 2020, which is when the application was submitted, that there's around 213 tonnes of mineral remaining on site, and that the annual export rates have been around 74,000 tonnes. And on that basis, there isn't sufficient time remaining for the operator to extract all of the finite mineral resource before the end of June. So I'm just going to move. There's a slightly closer picture. So that's just to show you development as it is currently. This is St James's Way. I'm hoping that you've got the plan showing the construction site.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's St James's Way, the road, the main access road, the main route for vehicles to come in, and then you've got the access road that comes down. And this is where the quarry will be constructed. Oh, sorry, not the quarry. The reservoir is currently under construction and where they're extracting, and the treatment plant is set down within the quarry. So the plant is bunded by material that's been excavated to access the mineral reserve. And then that's just moved on to the final reservoir plan. So the planning permission will deliver an agricultural reservoir to serve the adjoining agricultural fields. So in terms of consultations, this has been advertised by way of a site notice, press advert, and letters were written to neighbouring properties. There were no responses received from any neighbours, and there were no objections other than that from Thorley Parish Council. Thorley Parish Council have objected to this application, and a full copy of their consultation response is included for you in this pack. But in summary, they feel that the application is not justified because excavations are ahead of schedule, that traffic movements have exceeded the permitted levels, and that the excavation levels have been achieved. They also state that the site is an eyesore. So in response to that, I have followed up with the parish council to query this issue about excess vehicle movements, because the spatial planning team did not have any recorded complaints with the enforcement team. And when I went back to the parish council, they simply said it was a feeling that they didn't have any specific dates. There were no specific periods that they were looking at in terms of excess numbers. They just felt it was general observations that the site was busier. This hasn't been borne out by the observations of the monitoring officer who attends the site as part of the minerals monitoring process. And the vehicle numbers are well within the permitted 100 vehicle movements per day. That's 50 in and 50 out. In terms of the site looking like an eyesore, to quote Parish Council, restoration is to follow after excavation has been completed, and there is a programme of restoration of about a year after the conclusion of excavation, and that's still proposed to include that remains within the amended planning permission that's sought today. So just to give you a little bit more of a flavour about the actual site, should have two photographs in front of you now from the most recent minerals monitoring site visit. On the left hand side, you've got the view of the access road, and you can see in the distance is the plant. There's quite a long access road, which means that the site is not visible from residential properties, and it's set down within the bowl of the reservoir. And my experience from going on site is that the acoustic bunding from the material that's been excavated have proved very effective in baffling the noise that is generated from the crusher. I think members will remember when we previously went on a site visit that it wasn't until you got right close to the plant that you actually could really hear it, and that it was an uncomfortable noise when you were right on top of it. Looking on the right hand side, you've got some of the screening and crusher screening plant there, and then that's just to show you the next set of photos are just to show you the context within which the reservoir is set and the progress that has been made, and the openness within which this quarry is set, or within which this reservoir is set. So I'll just come out of that and hopefully stop presenting. So in terms of the report, you've got the details of the relevant planning policies set out at section 5. I'm not proposing to go through all those. They haven't changed, other than I'll pick that up when we address the planning issues. So moving to section 6, the planning issues, the principal planning issues in the consideration of this application are that it does represent development in the Greenbelt, the sustainability of the development, and the impact on what landscape, wildlife, and the impact on residential amenity. So firstly, turning to the development in the Greenbelt, I think it's key for members to be aware that the National Planning Policy Framework, which is the overarching policy document, finds that mineral extraction is not necessarily inappropriate in the Greenbelt, provided that it preserves the openness of the Greenbelt. It accepts that mineral reserves can only be dug where they are found, and so it does accept that that can take place in the Greenbelt. As I've shown from the photographs, the machinery is set down within the reservoir, and that the temporary screening bunds do provide some screening, or the acoustic bunds do provide screening, and that the base of the reservoir is lower than the surrounding fields, and this does help to protect the openness of the Greenbelt, and that continues to be the case. The openness of the Greenbelt is maintained as the Development Control Committee has found in previous decisions, and there's been no change to Greenbelt policy since those decisions have been taken to suggest that you should come to any other conclusion today. In terms of the sustainability of the development, again, the National Planning Policy Framework and the County Council's own minerals plans fall from this framework. The NPPF gives great weight to the benefit of mineral extraction, particularly where there's a risk of sterilisation. And there's only a finite resource. There is only a limited supply of minerals, and this is a high quality mineral that we should look to extract prior to sterilisation through a reservoir. So there is estimated to be a reserve of approximately 213,000 tonnes remaining, and that over the past 3 to 4 years, the extraction rate has been about 74,000 tonnes per year, and this has been achieved well within the permitted vehicle movements. There has been a depressed market in 2020. The construction industry has obviously suffered in the pandemic, but so that's why they're seeking the further 3 years, as they do believe that the market is starting to bounce back now, and that will give them sufficient period of time to extract the remaining reserve. So in terms of impact on local landscape and wildlife, and the impact on residential amenity, there's no additional impact. This does continue on a temporary basis, so there's no additional impacts from this development other than the extended period of time, and it's felt that those impacts are acceptable, as the committee has found previously. So in conclusion, the application seeks planning permission to vary condition 1 to extend the permitted completion date from the 30th of June 2021 to the 30th of October 2024, and as I said before, that does still include the restoration period. On balance, it's considered that the proposed development is compliant with the relevant policies, and that the mineral development is not inappropriate development in the Greenbelt and does not conflict with the purposes of including the land in the Greenbelt. The development is temporary in nature, albeit for an extended period, but represents a sustainable use of a finite mineral resource for which there is strong policy support. So the recommendation is that this application is approved, subject to the conditions which are listed out in your report and the amendments that I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Very clear presentation. I have a hand raised by John. Do you want to speak now?
I had a number of questions for Sharon, if that's possible at this stage.
Can you ask questions later? Because I'd like
I'm happy to later.
Yeah, we have the speaker for the excavator coming next, and then we'll go into questions soon after that, if that's okay. But I'll remember you first, John. Okay, thank you. So we now have Amy McDonald for Ingrebourne Valley Limited to speak on behalf of the application.
Right. Hello.
Hello. Yes.
I'd just like, before I start, I'd like to confirm that Sharon is correct. It is condition 1. It isn't condition 15. So I can confirm what Sharon was saying.
Okay. Thank you. You have 5 minutes, and you'll get a 1-minute warning at the end.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Amy McDonough, and I am a restoration and mineral planner at Ingrebourne Valley Limited, the applicant. I note that the planning officer has presented a clear overview of the application for the extension of time, therefore I will not repeat these details. The initial planning permission for the extraction of sand and gravel to enable the construction of an irrigation reservoir was approved in 2014. The task of discharging relevant planning conditions and establishing the internal compound and operations area took time, and therefore the development commenced in 2016. The minerals were found to be of high quality, and to export it as an unprocessed material would not be putting the aggregate to its best use. Consequently, a planning application for a processing plant was submitted and approved in 2017. Working within the existing conditions, the site has been regularly inspected by Hertfordshire County Planning Enforcement Officers. The various monitoring inspection reports clearly indicate full compliance within the conditions and that the site is well run. The initial delay in the commencement of the scheme has impacted the agreed date of the completion of the development. Therefore, an extension to the 30th of October 2024 is requested in order to successfully complete the permitted development. The application for the extension of time does not propose to change any other elements of the development other than condition 1, which stipulates the end of the project. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. McDonald. Before you go. Does anybody any member of the committee have a question for Ms. McDonald on her presentation? If so, can you indicate by raising your hand?
Yes, my hand's up already.
Okay, John, go ahead.
Thank you for your presentation, Ms. McDonald. I do have a number of questions just to get some clarification around this application. The original application was for a irrigation reservoir in respect of the agricultural use of the property. Can you confirm that it is the intention of the landowner to continue using this land for agricultural purposes for the foreseeable future?
As far as I'm aware, as that is what is stipulated in the initial planning application, that this area will be used as an agricultural reservoir. That is what I believe that the landowner intends to use it as. Okay.
I will be subsequently asking Sharon for confirmation as to whether this land has been included in the local plan for development purposes. You mentioned that the original development work was delayed because of meeting all the commitments, etc. Conditions. I can understand that. That was back in 2014 to 2016. The original conditions, I assume, included 12 months for restoration, which meant that 12 months should have started last October if the restoration was to be completed by this coming October.
Right.
Am I correct? Is that your understanding?
I mean, yes, as part of the conditions, that would have been something for restoration.
Okay.
However, based on the current conditions that we face at the moment, there is, as Sharon said, 213,000 tonnes left. And we have only been operating at a 28% capacity when it comes to actually exporting it. So we've only been exporting roughly around 74,000 tonnes per year, which, of course, in turn, it seems to be an amalgamation of reasons as to why we are delayed, not necessarily just the discharge of conditions. Things like not actually operating at the full capacity, which we are permitted to, has impacted it. But again, it's just something that we do need in order to successfully complete the development. Okay, so
you were operating at below capacity prior to March 2020, when COVID kicked in.
With that, based on what we've got in command, yes, we were only operating approximately 74,000 tonnes per year.
Okay, and then that was reduced further post-March 2020 when COVID kicked in, presumably.
With post-COVID, I'd have to check those figures with our technical team.
Okay, because I'm just very confused as to why, if the reduction in output was prior to March 2020, you hadn't realised back in 2018, 2019 that you were going to need longer period. Has enough, and presumably enough has not yet been extracted to make the reservoir?
Enough has been extracted to make part of the reservoir, because of course we're working in a phased kind of process. Yeah. So of course we've got areas where we work first before others. So certain areas are completed, but we have to complete those existing phases that we haven't done anything to yet, in order to make it a reservoir.
But it's not it's not intended to remove more material than is necessary for the building of the original size reservoir.
No.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. That's covered the questions I had.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, John. If there are no further questions, then we'll come back to the question we're going to put to Sharon later. But we'll end the public participation now. Ms. McDonald, if you'd like to leave the Teams meeting, you can, as I say earlier, watch it on the I think it's Watch Meetings website on the Hertfordshire County Council. We'll have a 2 or 3 minute pause for the meeting to allow you to log back into the public access, and then we'll reconvene the meeting in about 3 or 4 minutes time. Okay. Is that clear? Thank you. So we'll pause for about 3 or 4 minutes. Thank you. So I will continue the meeting. And first of all, I'd like if Sharon could answer the question that John raised earlier about the planning status of the piece of land.
Councillor Hale, could you confirm which local plan you're referring to, whether you're referring to East Herts or to East Herts local plan or the Minerals local plan?
East Herts local plan. Is it intended that this land remain in agricultural use, or is it earmarked for housing or other development?
Yeah, well, I don't represent East Herts. We're not the authority for East Herts, but I've just checked online, and it doesn't fall within the proposed area of development. I'll see if I can share the screen, because I've just managed to call up the might not. Bishop Stortford. Are you able to see an internet page there? So Bishop Stortford South. I can't get a little pointer coming up there. So the red line area is Bishop Stortford South. And you can see the line, the two roundabouts that are underneath that diagonally hashed out area, and the quarry is to the south of that. So that is not included within the proposed area of development.
Thank you.
That's okay. I'll just try and stop sharing. There we go.
Okay, thank you very much, Sharon. So we'll start the debate on the issue now, but I'd like to open the debate by asking Graham McAndrew, who's the local member, whether or not he wishes to say a few words.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'm Councillor Graham McAndrew, represent Bishop Stortford's Rural Division. Firstly, I would like to advise everybody that I live, as a crow flies, a few hundred metres away from the site. And I walk my dog past there on a regular basis, and I've met with some members of the planning committee out there. The quarry, I agree with everything that Sharon has said. The mineral extraction, the quarry, unless you actually physically knew it was there, you wouldn't know it was there. And many residents and various other people living round about aren't aware there's a mineral extraction there. I personally haven't seen any excess vehicle movement at all. As a matter of fact, it's very rare that you can actually see a heavy goods vehicle coming out of the actual quarry. It's well off the beaten track, and it's not visible to sort of passers-by. So it's not really an eyesore unless you're actually physically down there looking at the bunds. And I can understand why they've fallen behind with the COVID-19 and sort of not so much demand. At the end of the day, I really haven't got any objection to this being extended for another couple of years. There just really isn't an impact on the highways, vehicles coming in, going. That's all I've really got to say. I support the application, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Graham. Okay, so we have the recommendation from the officers in front of you, and we have the support of the local members. Does anybody wish to make any comment before we go to a vote on this? Any member of the committee?
Yes, I'd like to make a few comments, Ian.
Thank you, John.
When I read the original pack, my initial view was that this was a no-brainer and that it should be supported, and I had no objections to it. Having listened to Sharon and the presenter from the developer, it did raise some additional concerns. I have one fundamental concern with this application and with others that have come to this committee in recent years, in that whilst COVID is given as an explanation as to why they're running behind, in fact, they were already running behind extraction rates in March last year before COVID hit the construction industry. And really, we should have been talking about this application 12 months ago. They should have put this application in October 2019, not October 2020. And that's not the first time we've seen that with similar developments. So it is frustrating that people wait until they've reached the point of time when they should be starting restoration work and then ask, oh, can we carry on extracting? I think we need to remember that this is supposedly a reservoir and not a quarry, and that enough material needs to be extracted for the construction of the reservoir, which is why I asked the questions about the intended use of this field as an agricultural area, and I'm glad that it's not in the plan for development purposes. So we do have some confirmation of that. So I was concerned about this. I think I am concerned. I would be very concerned if in 2022 or 2023 this committee gets yet another request for an extension because they're not ready to start restoration work. And I think any future committee should look very dimly upon any plans to extend this further. They know what the extraction rate is, they know their time frame, and they need to get on with it. However, having listened to Councillor McAndrew, I have, who has the local knowledge, I'm now satisfied that if it's not an eyesore, and if he's satisfied that the traffic is not causing a problem, especially given the additional traffic that the other development site will be causing, then I feel that for the reasons the officers have made, I will support this, but with some reservations that it is coming to us, as I said, 12 months too late.
May I respond to Councillor Hale?
Of course, Sharon, yes.
Would that be helpful? I accept. It is one of the frustrations as a planning authority that we face, that it is rare that we can force the submission of an application. We would have had to got to the point where they had not complied, which would have been June 2021. The conversations did start through the efforts of the mineral monitoring regime when we're aware that these issues and the delays were starting to come about, that's how these conversations about needing an application and looking at the programme, that's how the application has come forward now. I accept that COVID is not a solution. There have been specific and operational challenges that this business has faced in terms of the agents that I won't go into here. So there have been very specific challenges that this company has faced within the past 12 months. But it does remain that the policy argument is that the sustainable use of this finite mineral is that we want to get it out. I do apologise for the slip of my tongue in using the word quarry. That was my mistake, and I'm sorry if that misled the committee in any way. No matter what you think in terms of having the word reservoir in your head, I'm afraid the word quarry did slip out so frequently synonymous with mineral extraction. So the planning permission is for a quarry. The local plan in terms of the district plan is for that to be remaining within the green belt. They haven't sought to remove it from the green belt and remain in agricultural use. So I do hope that gives you some comfort, and I do apologise if the slip of my tongue in terms of using the phrase quarry. So I hope that clarifies a couple of those points for you.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. I also have Seamus Quilty who wishes to speak. Seamus.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And it's clear, following on from what John said and Sharon said, that there is, and also Councillor McAndrew, that there's a clear, strong policy support here. It's basically very, very clear. So what we're looking at is an extension of time. Look, there's nothing changed between the previous application and this application, apart from the request for to actually do it sort of to extend that time frame. Now, I'm confident that Sharon has told us here today that there are reasons for this potential delay in doing this project, and I accept that. And I think when one looks at the conclusions on 7.3 on the report, it's got it right. So therefore, I'm going to support this application, and I hope everyone else will. I can't see any reason whatsoever not to support it. Therefore, I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Seamus. I see nobody else wishing to speak, but before we go to the vote, I'd just like to mention
there is a speaker. There is a request for there is a hand up.
Yeah, sorry, Stephen Bolton.
Thank you, Chairman. I think, as is so often the case, we need to deal with the application which is in front of us today, and the reasons for the delay, what's gone in the past. aren't part of this application, and what may happen in the future is not part of this application. And the application today is for the extension of time, in effect, so that they can complete the extraction they need to make their reservoir. On that basis, I'm perfectly happy to approve this recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Okay, I've now had notification that Steve Drury has given his apologies. He can't make this morning's meeting, so we're only 9 present. And if there are no other speakers, then I will go straight to the vote. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, can you vote first of all by saying whether or not you agree the officer's recommendation in the chat function? And also I will go and speak to each of you in turn so that you can make a statement in public of your decision. So I'll again go through in alphabetical order, and I will ask David Barnard.
Mr. Chairman, do we have to have a proposer and seconder for the recommendation? Just out of curiosity, I'm not too sure. I don't know if we're changing the format.
We haven't normally done that in the past.
Okay, fine. That's all right.
Okay. So, David Barnard, are you in favour or?
I am in favour, yes.
Thank you. Stephen Bolton?
I'm in favour.
Steve Drury has given his apologies. Adreda Gordon?
Yes, in favour.
Thank you. John Hale? You're muted, John.
In favour.
Thank you. Michael Muir? You're muted, Michael.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, in favour.
Thank you. Seamus Cruelty?
In favour.
Andrew Williams?
In favour.
And I'm also in favour. So that is unanimous. That officer's recommendation has been agreed.
You missed me, Chairman. Jeff Jones, I'm in favour.
Oh, sorry, Jeff. I don't know why. I don't know why. Sorry about that. Being a substitute has its disadvantages. Sorry. So yes, that is.
Yeah, I accept that.
That is so that is agreement. So that ends this meeting now. It's 10:45 a.m. and the meeting is now formally closed. Thank you very much indeed, everybody, for attending.
Bye, everybody. Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Thank you.
Happy
Chair.
New Year.
Bye.
Happy New Year.
Cheers.